Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Daleks as they plot and scheme across the universe and arrive at episode 475. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
We're on 475.
I almost said 417. I don't know why.
I could tell
take us way back.
The wrong number almost came out of your mouth, but you corrected on the fly. I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing all right.
Scheming?
Are you plotting?
I haven't quite got to the plotting, but there's definitely some scheming going on.
Sean, when aren't you scheming?
That is true.
Fair enough.
Did you guys do anything fun this week?
I'm going to jump in real quick and say, because I didn't get a good chance to talk about these, because I actually just downloaded the newest one and I've just started it. But I was telling you guys a little bit about the Daleks audio annuals that I had downloaded. They're really fun. They're kind of anthology pieces from Daleks annuals, but they're not from one specific one. They're from different short stories pulled out of several of the different annuals. But like I say, the first one that I had stumbled across was Daleks: The Secret Invasion and Other Stories, and then that drew me into the whole set. Which then I discovered the first one, which was, I think it's just called, Terry Nation's Dalek Annual. And then the next one, so Daleks Destroy was the most recent one. In fact, it just came out 2 months ago, I think it was. Or maybe it was last month. But the one that came after Terry Nation's Dalek Audio Annual in 2018 was last year's Dalek Attack, subtitled Blockade and Other Stories. So I've just started it, and they're really the Nicholas Briggs is been reading on all of them so far, and he does the voices in there. And in fact, when anybody else is reading, and they come across the Daleks line, they dub Nicholas Briggs' voice in there, which I think is pretty cool. But for the most part, it's pretty much audiobooks. The first one had Nick Briggs, Louise Jameson, and Matthew Waterhouse reading. Daleks Destroy, which was the most recent one, had Terry Malloy, Nick Briggs, and the guy that's doing the Brigadier now. I can't remember his name. Anyway, I'm sorry. I think it's who's doing the third Doctor? Tim Treloar?
Tim Treloar?
Yeah, I believe that might have been him. It's one of those two guys now. I can't remember for sure, but anyway, it's Doctor Who alum that are doing these, and they'll do everything from a short story to some of those little interlude things. Like, do you guys remember when we were doing our Sarah Kingdom ones? And there was one particular one that was kind of Mark 7, and it kind of gave like a bio of Mark 7, the android guy. They'll do those where they'll read about these little interlude things in between the stories, and it's quite enjoyable. I mean, they're ones you could probably go back and pick up the annuals, but it's what I've been doing is listening to those audiobooks.
Well, that's cool.
Keith, how about you? What'd you do?
Oh, we didn't do much. We went to our local zoo for their Zoo Lights exhibit, where they decorated a lot of the zoo with Christmas lights and let people in at night. It was pretty cool. That was the main thing we did.
Yeah, we're going to go tomorrow night.
Of course, everyone's social distance and face mask.
Well, we were going to we're still going tomorrow night, but we had gotten tickets for tomorrow night because my daughter was supposed to be singing with her choir from school, but they nixed that because of the COVID stuff. So we're still going to go, but she won't be singing.
We actually have plans to go Wednesday night.
Oh, nice. I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty cool.
It looks neat from outside. You can see them when you drive down Gage.
Yeah. I think the kids will like it, especially Shy.
That's the hope.
Liam wasn't too sure about it. He just kind of looked around and took it all in.
Sean, did you do anything?
We went shopping on Saturday, and we had a couple places that we needed to stop, and of course, knowing that Mel and Shy and masks and social distancing and weekend and holiday is all in tow, I had just kind of mentally prepared myself for a long day. But we started at about 10 o'clock and didn't get done and home until 8:30.
Ooh.
It was a long day. just on and on and on. I don't think I've ever actually gone out and blown an entire paycheck in the span of 8 hours, but
I have, but I haven't done it since college.
It can happen. and when the last purchase went, no, I don't think so, I looked at Mel and said, well, I guess we're done. I'm officially out of money. So, yeah, we did that. And then fortunately, Sunday, we did not have any plans. So we just stayed in and made it a TV day and watched stuff and hung out. It was kind of nice to just be that drained and not move.
All right, well, let's move on to news.
Well, the Doctor Who cast is promising big shocks and tears shed in the festive special.
I wonder what they are. I think that quote particularly came from John Barrowman. I think RadioTimes had this article. They were quoting him saying that there would be shocks and big surprises. And then Bradley Walsh went on to say that people are going to be surprised, but he also promises some heartfelt moments as well. It's surprising, spectacular, and heartwarming, he says. So hopefully that means nobody's going to die.
I don't know. Tears
tends to be the MO for Doctor Who anymore, is kill off companions. I know. Here's an original concept. Let everybody live.
Everyone always lives.
Well, yeah.
They're going to kill Captain Jack.
Yeah, finally.
Lose immortality, finally. Well, Amanda Begill has talked to RadioTimes about why she's not leaving the show, along with Bradley Walsh and Tosin Cole. She says, quote, I just thought, I'm not ready for this journey to end. Why leave something if you're enjoying it, it's working, and there's development? I don't know when it will end for me because as a person, as a character, there's so much more to explore. And she also hints to the fact that there's not new cast members coming on because they have more time to focus on Yaz in the season.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I kind of latched onto there was while I've enjoyed all of the characters the last two seasons, I think that we've sort of suffered from crowded TARDIS syndrome, and I think all of us kind of brought up the points that Yaz has been the least focused on. So it's probably good that she's the one staying around. That it will be a smaller, crew, just her and the Doctor presumably, and guest star of the week. And I think they'll be able to spend more time on Yaz's story and give us more, because I think we really ran the gamut with Graham and Ryan's characters. I mean, I think they really did a good job of giving us their backstory and the heart and fleshing those characters out. But Yaz always seemed to kind of get the short shrift. So it'll be nice to be able to focus on her for a while.
I agree. I'm obviously heartbroken that Graham is leaving because I love Graham so much. But I'm heartbroken just from the standpoint of, I'm losing my Graham. I'm not heartbroken from the standpoint of, but he had so much still to offer. I think it's a good time. Now, I can say that now in not hindsight because I haven't seen the episode. And if they kill him off, I'll be very devastated and angry. But, I can say that it feels like it's probably a good time for the two characters to step away. And of all of them, I'm very glad that we're going to get some more Yaz to be able to continue to develop her character. If all three of them had left, I would have felt Yaz had got short shrifted and would have looked forward to the eventual big finish stories.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I agree. I'm looking forward to seeing more Yaz.
Yeah.
The last bit of news is the RadioTimes has a poll asking fans to vote on the best festive special of all time.
Doctor Who.
Charlie Brown
everywhere
Christmas.
From what?
Charlie Brown Christmas.
Doctor Who festive.
Oh,
Doctor Who.
Oh,
yeah.
Christmas Carol.
Ranging from the Feast of Stephen all the way to Resolution.
Christmas Carol.
Which is why they had to do festive special because they're all Christmas specials up until last year.
Well, End of Time Part 2 was a festive special.
Oh, I guess you're right. Yeah,
and they do lump the two together. So.
It started on but it started on Christmas. So,
are we counting Planet of the Dead as an Easter special? Is it also on there on the festive special list?
It is not a winter festive special.
So is Waters of Mars on there as a festive Halloween special?
You're the only one that considers those specials based on some holiday that they're not based on.
He says Happy Easter in Planet of the Dead.
He does?
He does. When he sits down on the bus.
I don't recall that. Are you sure?
Yes.
I don't remember that either.
He does not.
He most certainly does.
No.
He walks in, sits down on the bus, looks at the person and says, Happy Easter.
Which one is it?
He's right. There's a gif of it.
Bam!
I'll be darned.
Glenn is so shocked that I'm right about anything.
Even has a chocolate egg.
No, this totally should be included then, because that totally gives it. Now, I don't Waters of Mars unless they referenced Halloween. I'm not going to count that one, but I will give you that. It needs to be included.
Make a note, friends. December 7th, 2020, a date that will live in infamy.
I don't think you typically refer to Easter as festive. I think festive is reserved for the winter holidays, so I guess maybe.
Yeah.
I suppose it's a little more of a somber holiday.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
the rationale is festive.
I was going to say, the nature of it can be festive, but I think when they're referring to festive specials, they mean the winter holidays.
Okay, so the first paragraph of this article.
Not that I would vote for Planet of the Dead over Christmas Carol.
Right.
Just to be clear.
The first paragraph of this article says, offering either a Christmas or New Year's adventure every year. So there, it puts constraints on the phrase festive.
Okay, that does narrow it down a bit, I guess.
Has there been one every year? I guess there has, hasn't there? We haven't missed a year. We've missed years without Doctor Who, but I guess we've always had have we? Let's see, 2000.
Yeah, we've always had a
5, 6,
as long as the show's on,
7,
yeah.
8, 9,
18
10,
is the only time we didn't have one.
10, 11, 12. Okay, so there was a year that we went without one.
Between Capaldi and Whitaker.
Okay, that's what I wondered.
Because we hadn't had her first season yet.
Right. Well, we'll revisit the poll and see if which one comes up a winner. But we will, spoilers, Christmas Carol is in the lead right now.
Return of Dr. Mysterio is going to take the lead. Just you wait.
It's got a lot to overcome from dead last
in this race.
The odds on that are great. Even
I'll take things that are not likely to happen for $800.
Even Feast of Stephen is beating it right now.
Feast of Stephen's tied with Husbands of River Song.
Yeah, it's doing really well, actually.
And beating many other ones, including Runaway Bride.
The only classic one on here. Of course, it's the only classic Christmas special we ever had. So, all right, well, should we move on to our reviews?
What the TARDIS thought about the Time Lord Victorious. I have a summary, but it's kind of long, and it was almost as long as the short story.
Yeah, because
I don't know how much of it's a summary and a synopsis. I don't know.
This is kind of a quick read. I kind of thought maybe if we just read that first paragraph if you're on the website, just at first, as it's 11 years since the Waters of Mars, here's what happened on that incredible adventure and the birth of the Time Lord Victorious from the TARDIS's perspective, written by James Goss.
Dun dun dun.
That was kind of the lead in on the website.
I would concur.
Yeah,
I really liked it.
It's always kind of neat to get the perspective of the TARDIS, especially since all these years, we've considered her and not really an organic being, but at least an entity of sorts, and so much so that when they did the doctor's, was it the doctor's wife? Putting a face and a name to the TARDIS as she's transplanted into another person. I think it's kind of always neat to kind of get that perspective, even though we get it so rarely, and it's done really well here.
What I also really like about the story in general is it really helps kind of clarify how everything is happening in Time Lord Victorious, the storyline.
Yeah.
Because I've always kind of wondered, well, if the Dark Times is off limit, how is everyone getting to it?
Right.
And it's this crack in time.
A time fracture.
Fracture in time. Because a crack, is 11th Doctor stuff. A fracture in time that is allowing the TARDIS to take him back to kind of put him in his place. And I think that's such a cool idea that I kind of wish we had gotten this short story right off the bat. So I would kind of appreciate all the stories we had already listened to or read or experienced in this light.
I kind of agree. I think it seems like it's a throwaway. It almost feels like it's just a cutesy little excuse to write a story about the TARDIS. But the way it's handled, and specifically the descriptor of, with every step in the snow, that the fact that Adelaide, exists, it's creating and widening this fissure. Because, inside the TARDIS, it doesn't matter that she's alive. But the moment she steps outside the TARDIS, then all of a sudden it's an issue because she's back somewhere where she's not supposed to be. And the TARDIS commenting on that, I agree. I think it would have really kind of set up a bit more import almost for the things that would come. Not that the things that were, we got originally weren't already epic in magnitude.
It just helps set the stage and provides context.
Yeah. More so than a Dalek story does. No offense, Glenn.
Well, no, I would agree. I mean, I don't think I've advocated for the Daleks starting the. I guess I don't know where's that comment coming from.
It's the Daleks.
Well, so I think what he's saying is the Titan comics that had the Dalek story with the Doctor kind of more officially kicked off everything for Time Lord Victorious, and that doesn't feel like as good of a setup to what's actually going on.
But see, I think that's simply just placement of when it came out. I don't think that. I mean, yeah, it kicked off the event, but I think that they never intended for any of these particular stories to be kind of the starting point. So I don't think I would have ever even defended. Defender of the Daleks as the starting or the nexus point of anything. I think that this, as you were saying, this one does a good job to kind of. That's why that was one of the things I think that frustrated me, and I think it's why BBC held off so long from releasing a quote unquote reading order, because I think the whole idea of this is that everything is happening sort of in perpetuum of each other, and you can't really nail down a starting point or a nexus point, although I think this does a really good job, other than, which I think they've said all along, that Waters of Mars is kind of the kickoff event for this. And I think that this story best explains how, as Sean said, it's opening that fissure in order to allow for all this happening. And it gives it a little more direction or organization, as much as you can organize a splintered timeline. But it gives it kind of a grounding point. And so, no, I would agree. I've never looked at any one of these stories being like a nexus of, okay, this is where you start. I mean, we've just merely been slave to the schedule for how we've been pursuing them. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I know what you're saying. I think that this is the story that does it best.
Anything else on this one? It's so short.
It is. It's very short.
Nice references to Ian and Barbara at the beginning.
Yeah.
I loved how the TARDIS remembered them too. Just the comment that he learned more from those two school teachers than he ever would have learned wandering about on his own.
Yeah.
And just what a great cementing the legacy, as it were. They're still teaching.
I liked London's 1965, for instance. I could have got there in a second if only he'd asked nicely. If only he hadn't been having fun.
I like the comment too that he thinks he's figured out how to drive.
Yeah.
However that one was worded, that it was like,
Yeah.
Tennant's made that comment. Oh, I've got the hang of this now, the short hops and the repositioning, and only because she lets you. As any good, reliable vehicle should be. Anybody who's driven a particularly persnickety car knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Should we move on to our next two offerings?
Planets of the Mechanoids. The Daleks offer an alliance.
Dun, dun, dun! Oh, sorry. I jumped the gun. I'm sorry. I jumped the gun.
The Mechanoids. But will their queen accept the Daleks' offer?
Dun, dun, dun! Oh, we're not done yet.
Or has she a plan of her own?
Dun,
for
dun,
the
dun!
You're going to blow out people's eardrums, Glenn.
I think Glenn liked it.
Yeah, these two, both this one and the next story, really elevated the entire series for me. I liked it so much. Just, the Daleks trying to make an alliance with the Mechanoids, and just there's nothing bad about these two. Even the animation, I think, has improved somehow between episode 1 and 2. Maybe it's more playing to the animation style's strength and capabilities. I don't know.
Is it the simple fact that it's Mechanoids that we...
I think there's a large part of that.
We're dealing with something familiar and a callback that's like, oh, cool. Versus, I can't remember the robot's name, but the Guardian.
Sentinel.
And, the Sentinel. Yeah, thank you.
I think it definitely helps because there's already a design in place. It's not the animators coming up with the design for a creature that doesn't quite, that makes it look kind of cartoony. These are just a design already in place. I think that helps a lot, at least as far as animation goes.
Yeah, I think what helps too is it takes a familiar design, but it doesn't limit it to what we saw in the chase, which was just these hulking, somewhat round robots, rolling around and firing their little spray gun things. This obviously. Well, it was necessary, but they give them the repulsor flight like they have for the Daleks, giving the varying colors for the leadership and scientists and that kind of thing, which is something that they've used before with the Daleks. But
I say stealing quite a bit from the Daleks.
Yeah,
actually.
exactly. But expanding out the Mechanoids and not limiting them to what we saw initially on screen, I think was
and weren't the Mechanoids originally going to be a Dalek replacement, anyways?
They were.
They were always trying to find a Dalek replacement.
Yeah, the Quarks.
Mechanoids, Chumblies. I mean,
Quarks.
Yeah, it's a constant attempt. So
I don't know if
kind of fitting that they stole some ideas from the Daleks.
Well, I don't know that Mechanoids necessarily would have been, because that would have been a Terry Nation and David Whittaker invention anyway.
That's true.
Yeah, one of those guys came up with that. The Mechanoids
wasn't that a David Whittaker thing though? Because Nation had already abandoned it to go try to.
Yeah, he was off trying to sell, but. It was. I think those guys both get a lot of credit. In fact, David Whittaker wrote a lot of the stories in the Dalek annuals, and I think that he had a hand in much of the comic strips as well. So he was almost as much involved with the Daleks as Nation was. So that was another thing, is that the Daleks they played heavy as a adversary in the Dalek comics, and so beyond the chase, the only time that we ever saw Mechanoids again was on spin-off material of the Daleks from the comics. And so to kind of bring them back in the fold again goes into that whole nostalgic thing, that stylized look of the comics, and I think particularly the coloring, although I don't remember how they colored the Daleks, but it gives it goes a long way to give it sort of that comic feel as well.
How has Big Finish not done a Mechanoid story?
Yeah, might be a licensing issue. I don't know. They tend to get the Nation estate to give them Daleks frequently, so I guess maybe there is has there not been a Mechanoid story?
There hasn't been. I'm looking at the list of appearances. They've been in an Eighth Doctor novel. There's been a couple short stories and then comics, and that's about it.
Huh. Oh, my darn.
Well, I guess there was one. I'm sorry. The Juggernauts. There has been one audio.
Oh, that's right. I do remember that. We haven't listened to that.
And we listened to it.
Have we listened to it?
Yeah, we did listen to it.
I think we did, because it was Davros.
Yeah.
The Davros 6 and Mel story.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. No, I remember that one now.
Okay, how is that the only...
I wonder if it's a production issue thing where the thought process maybe is, okay, we've got a story that's going to feature an entire race of robots. And somewhere in the room, the one person pipes up and goes, yeah, but if we're going to do that, shouldn't we just make it Daleks and ensure that it sells?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, I wonder if that's maybe it.
Could be.
Maybe there were more Mechanoid stories planned, and then Juggernaut didn't do well. I don't know. It's pure speculation on my part at this point. I'll be quiet. All I can say is that I would like more Mechanoid stories on the basis of and the strengths of this two-parter.
Well, that's why I think that there's a lot you could farm, I think, from this, especially if this Dalek series, they went on and they did more. I think you could probably set up, the warring factions of this. I think what I really like about this story is the fact that the Daleks come there seemingly looking for the Mechanoids' help and the idea that they can, work together, and the Emperor sort of reveals by the end of this first episode that he's just basically brought them there, as a way to escape or get them off their tail and have them to basically test the Mechanoids to see, well, let's see what you can do against them, using the Mechanoids as a shield, essentially. So I thought that was kind of a neat turn, especially at the end. I think that's kind of probably the best cliffhanger that we've had in any of these is the Emperor, announcing that he brought the entity to them.
Yeah, although part of me wonders how much credit the Emperor can really take, because obviously the entity is pursuing them throughout space. So of course he brought the entity to Mechanus.
Well, true.
It's hunting them. It's chasing them.
Well, but he sets it up. He sets it up to make it sound like the entity was just going to end up come there anyway. So, which I don't think that the entity would, because as you said, they were chasing the Dalek, so it was going to come no matter where he was going. In the next episode, maybe he'll try to lead him to the Movellans. So.
That being said, they did use the situation to their advantage to destroy the planetary defense grid, and
yes.
I guess it's more of he let them into Mechanus as opposed to leading him there.
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant. It wasn't very clear.
And I think that's what they meant too. I'm just being pedantic.
Yes,
I do question the ending, the argument that the Queen makes about go limp home, go back to Skaro or wherever, but we're coming, which is kind of a big momentous line. And yet, I cannot help but think to myself that what the Mechanoids really need is a Mechanoid strategist.
Yeah.
Who would go, hold on, time out. They're here now. There's only 2 of them.
Let's kill them while they're here.
Why assemble a fleet and go? Just it was very Austin Powers. I have a gun in my room. I'll go get it. I'll come back here. We'll take care of them together. It'll be fun. But no, you're going to do a whole thing to deliver this ultimatum that's not needed. Okay.
Well, it sort of makes
the logic of robots.
I don't know. It sort of makes me wonder if there's an ulterior motive, because obviously there's something that's going to happen. Because this really felt like a conclusion too. This sort of felt like, okay, we've wrapped this storyline up. We've dispatched the entity. I don't know that we necessarily really did dispatch it, and I think maybe that could be. But you have to kind of wonder, what are we going to do in this last 15 minutes? Because this feels like an ending. It feels like the Daleks or the Emperor lured them there, the Mechanoids, and with help of the strategist. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to undersell the strategist, because he's also with the scientist, the one that came up with. They together came up with a way to bleep them back wherever they came from, or out of existence, or whatever they did. But you kind of have to wonder what's next. And this one didn't. it didn't have as strong of a cliffhanger because I agree with you, Sean. Why let him and the strategist limp back to their own world and then chase them down later? Because just take care of him now, dispatch him now. I would agree.
Well, and knowing what we all know about the Daleks, and I have to assume that the Mechanoids are at least as up on the Daleks as we, the audience, are. That, if you leave two of them alive, they will survive. They will rebuild. They will start the manufacturing plants up, and there will be churning out wave after wave after wave after wave of Daleks again. And if you've been fighting them in any capacity over the years, you would have to think to yourself, I have the Emperor on the ropes. There's no way you're giving up that tactical advantage.
Yeah.
And so I question a little bit whatever needs of the story that are going to happen in the final part that would trump that thought process from the Mechanoid Queen's standpoint.
Yeah.
It's I understand it's a convenience of story that whatever's going to happen, well, it had to happen this way, but there's another part of me that's like, it feels a little bit like a plot hole.
That's true.
Again, you can't kill off the Daleks, obviously, but certainly not in the show with their name on it.
The only way I can rationalize it is if the Mechanoids assume that they aren't actually the last two, that they have a hidden fleet somewhere out there, and that they're going to run back to, so they're going to follow them and destroy the whole fleet, is the only thing I can rationalize of why they would have let them go.
Well, that's what I wondered. In fact, I had hoped that when this was coming up to the end of the second part of this, I had kind of hoped that was going to be divulged, and that would be the cliffhanger, that they weren't actually wiped out, that they had this second contingency of Daleks somewhere, because it is very unlike any storyteller to wipe the Daleks out nearly completely. I don't think that's only but done maybe once or twice, and there's always a buried group of Daleks somewhere or somewhere in stasis. In Power they did it where there were 3 of them that kind of remanufactured a whole army, but very rarely is it down to just a few. Victory maybe is another one.
Yeah,
usually they're somewhere hiding somewhere.
Yeah,
and
but Dalek was even subverted by the fact that the Emperor was out there somewhere hidden. He just was hidden away, but they made it. We as the viewer are led to believe that he was the last Dalek.
And you have to think to yourself as well that if there were other Daleks out there, if they do have a fleet squirreled away, if they do have a hidden base, if they do have that, my thinking is that the Daleks probably would have gone there for the help,
but
before they went to the Mechanoids. But maybe that's why. Maybe knowing that they could get to this planet ahead of us, then, well, let's go somewhere they won't expect us, because they know everything that we know.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So we'll go outside the Dalek sphere of influence to bring in help. That, I guess, makes a little more sense. Yeah. So I guess there could still be more out there.
Sure.
Because
I'd still kill the Emperor now.
To know you still do that, but I think the strategist is smart enough to know that to not try the same tactic more than once.
Does anybody think that the Mechanoids stellar cartography, whatever, I don't remember what the room was called, but the beauty of here's our trip through the universe. Does anybody have the feeling that was like updated in real time? Like that the Mechanoids are much more plugged in than we ever possibly could have thought, and are probably aware of like Dalek troop movements and stuff, because they were able to go to Skaro and go, oh, look, it's dead.
Yeah.
You had to abandon your homeworld. That just happened.
Yeah.
So that was something that kind of sparked what if this, and that they very much keep abreast of things.
Yeah, more of a bead on the enemy than anyone would expect. I think we also have to keep in mind that this is part of the Dalek this is part of the Time Lord Victorious event. So I would assume whatever happens in this next episode is going to set up the events of the Time Squad that are sent back with the 8 Doctors. So, and we know that the Time Squad at least has 5, 6 Daleks because the Eagle Moss toys. So there's at least more than 2.
Well, and there's more of them once we get to the 8th Doctor stories, too.
Right, exactly. So there must be an army hidden somewhere. I thoroughly enjoy these 2 stories, not because there's a lot of substance to them, because there still isn't. There really hasn't been a lot. They're pretty simplistic stories, but I think from just the pure standpoint of the fan service, bringing back the Mechanoids, putting those on our screens again, the cleverness of bringing the 2 together, the conflict between, and then the Mechanoids being essential to dispatching the entity. I think all of that makes these 2 episodes so far the best of the series. And that's why I was on the edge of my seat, just kind of feeling like, a schoolboy watching just a fantastic 2-part story, just based on the visuals and the excitement that it gave me as I watched it. So that's just is one of the best things that I think out of this event that's happened is these 2 particularly. I think the whole series has been good so far. But these 2 really kind of the culmination of everything happening. It was just a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And speaking of the visuals, I know I dogged pretty heavily on the animation in the last 2 episodes, but these 2 really do make up for it, because even the Daleks, some of the shots with the Daleks that they were, the Dalek strategist specifically, and having the background blurred, and then some close-up shots where you can actually see some texture on the Daleks. I never saw that previously in the episode, so it looks like they maybe spent a little bit more time, or not having all the more elaborate backgrounds allowed them more processing power to better render the actual characters, which made the whole thing look a lot better.
The use of lights and shadowing also are a focus in these 2 stories, which I hadn't noticed in the first 2 either, so I'm wondering if maybe that lends to it a bit.
Yeah, I wonder.
Very easily could be. I think the amount of fan service that was going on in these 2 episodes would be akin to if you had just, given me some open brain surgery and stuck the little probe into the pleasure center of my head. That's kind of where it was just like, yeah, happy. Just stared off into space, happy.
I would agree. That's well stated.
I would have never, ever suspected the Mechanoids, of all things, could generate that level of. But there they were.
Well, and the crazy thing is, we even knew they were coming, and I got a little excited when I saw them in the trailer. I was like, "Oh, Mechanoids are back! Yay!"
That over knowing that, I kind of wish now that I wish we hadn't got the trailer or the episode drop.
Oh, I was just as happy. Well, it wasn't even the title drop, but they were in the original big trailer that came out. A month ago or whatever, so it was.
But just if I'd gone into this blind and not known, and the Daleks were fighting through this defense grid, it was like, what's going on? And they land on the planet, and then all of a sudden, and they all come rolling out, and Mechanoids, we will speak with you, and then the title comes up, Planet of the Mechanoids. Oh, that would have been. I get chills over the chills that might have been.
I'm looking forward to seeing how it all wraps up, though.
Yeah. Well, speaking of what's coming up, Sean, what do we got coming up on the schedule?
Well, coming up on the schedule next week, we will conclude Daleks with episode 5, which does not have a title as of yet that we've seen. And a reminder to everybody that these are available on YouTube, so you can go and watch them there. And then we will also be listening to the BBC audiobook, The Minds of Magnox by Darren Jones. Now, this is not a Big Finish production. This is an actual BBC audio, and I don't know how much of an audio dramatization that is, since it's listed as an audiobook.
Yeah.
Unless Glenn knows.
No, I don't, but I think they did this with in conjunction and help with Big Finish.
Ah, well, then credit where credit is due.
Yeah. Demon Records and BBC Studios who's listed on it.
So those are the 2 outings for next time out. And then the following time that you hear us, we will be having a festive holiday of our own. And should we tell them what it is?
Wait, we should say which festive holiday. It could be Easter now. We've decided.
It could be Easter.
We're going to celebrate Easter, yes.
Well, who knows? We might be taking time off from between now and Easter.
Oh.
Keep them guessing. No. Go ahead.
We will be returning with a Christmas special, a festive holiday special, if you prefer. And we thought it might be kind of fun to go back to the beginning, as it were. And for those of you who have either been with us from the beginning or have discovered us and gone back and tried to catch up from the beginning, God knows why, the very first episode of Traveling the Vortex that we ever recorded. Should I not be saying this?
No, I thought you were talking about An Unearthly Child.
Oh.
This beginning. Okay, I got you.
This beginning. I mean, we all know it began in a junkyard. And our story is not all that different.
Yeah, it wasn't that far off.
But we thought it would be for the very first episode of Traveling the Vortex that we ever recorded was nearly 10 years ago. We were coming up on that anniversary. And we thought the very first episode was about A Christmas Carol. That was the one we introduced Keith to when we brought him on board with this crazy train. And so we thought it would be fun as a holiday offering to go back and revisit A Christmas Carol and see what we all think 10 years on. And then of course
it all started in Keith's bedroom.
It all started in Keith's bedroom. Around a rock band microphone. Look at the empire we have wrought. All right, that might be a little strong.
Yeah.
Then, of course, the big news following that will be the actual festive holiday special with Genetics of the Daleks. No, that's the wrong title. Where did it go? Are we not to that yet?
Nope.
I thought we'd be to that yet.
Because Revolution will be on New Year's Day.
Oh, you're right. There's a week in between.
Yeah, we had to move that out.
That's why I was looking at that wrong. Well, then, since I've let that cat out of the bag, we'll then go to Mutually Assured Destruction and Genetics of the Daleks, which are the next 2 big Finnish Time Lord Victoria stories.
Correct.
That will come out, followed by Revolution of the Daleks. That's the title of it.
There you go.
That closes out the year for us.
Woo-hoo.
Assuming it actually does.
Yeah, right.
Do you think
barring any
2020 will close out?
Circumstances.
I think he's afraid the year will never end.
And then we'll see in the 13th month. Yeah, so we'll let you know when we get there.
Well, be sure to keep up with us on our website, travelingthevortex.com. If you get any value out of this podcast, why not consider putting some back into it? You can do that on our Patreon link. Consider supporting us, and thank you to those who are already supporting us. Please consider giving us a 5-star review wherever you subscribe to this podcast. And make sure you join in the conversation in our listeners forum on Facebook. Until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you.
We love you.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.